Hello everyone, it's Oliver Harper here and I'm back again with my good friend Tim Partridge.
Hello.
Today we are providing a commentary on Super Mario Bros. The movie. Now remember, it's an audio commentary, not a video, but if you wish to sync it with your own copy of the film, put the timestamp to about 14 seconds in, which is when the Hollywood Pictures logo starts, and press play now. Now Tim, when was the first time you saw Super Mario Bros. Or heard about the movie?
Okay, so the first time I heard of this film, I saw it in a magazine in late 1992. I saw a picture of it that proved Bob Hoskins was in costume and this was happening. I later saw a trailer for the film, and it was back to back with the trailer for Jurassic Park. And I saw Jurassic Park, and I could see that it was about a handful of dinosaurs on some island, and not much is going to happen. I saw this film, and you had a futuristic city inhabited by dinosaurs, and I just thought Jurassic Park's doomed. There's just no way it's going to be able to compete with that film. There you go.
I wish you played some bets at the time. I'd love to see your face when you lost all your money.
And, you know, I love this film. I think it's madcap, brilliant sort of Wizard of Oz romp.
I think it's pretty good. It's not as bad as people make it out to be, but it does have its problems, which are very obvious, to most people who kind of sit through it the first time. But a lot of the reviews at the time were a bit unjust in some areas. I mean, the movie starts out with a great, kind of 8-bit rendition of the Super Mario Brothers music.
And it's a pity that the visuals, they didn't go the whole hog and make all of the visuals 8-bit. That would have been really fun, I think. I think it's almost like a compromise that they had to make it a cartoon because maybe they thought the graphics weren't sophisticated enough to get the story across.
Yeah,
but I think in retrospect, it would have been fun if they got the whole hog.
Because nowadays, when they do like flash animation...
Yeah, no, they dined for it.
Yeah. But that was like, that's literally just 2D animation with weird kind of pixel effect thrown over the top.
Well, I guess at the time too, because the standard console was the SNES, wasn't it? The Super Nintendo.
Yeah, SNES and
so
Mega
I guess
Drive,
the idea of retro hadn't really kicked in because everyone, you didn't have millennials at that point and hipsters, and maybe that's the reason why they decided to compromise.
Well, because the intro, wasn't it? The animation was kind of thrown in at the last minute, wasn't it? Because they had no introduction, because the audience, the test screenings, people still didn't understand the sort of the dimension plot.
Well, it's only with hindsight that you look at these things and you think, but I like to think that if they did a special edition, they'd go and they'd make that intro full 8-bit.
Yeah.
And I love just the bigness of the film. I love the way it just opens and it all looks kind of big and massive and operatic and fun.
Oh, yeah. Money's been thrown at this film. I mean, what? It said online the budget was $48 million, which is a lot of money, when they originally set out with $20 million.
And look at the people who are involved. I mean, Alan Silvestri, Dean Semler, David Snyder. These are A-list
people,
big people. These aren't a compromise.
Not at all.
And this was also the first video game
movie. Yeah. I mean, with this, making maybe only 20 million domestically. It was a huge bomb. Studios were still willing to throw money at future video game movies, because the following year we had Street Fighter, which cost about 30 million. Luckily, it made 100 million, despite it being completely panned by critics and the fans. Which is in the films, Street Fighter's now become this kind of guilty pleasure movie, but the only one that's kind of been deemed successful during the 90s was Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. Well, I must admit, I saw Street Fighter. And I did feel, I saw it at the cinema when it came out, and that game was at its kind of peak. Yeah, it was huge and massive, and it didn't feel, in my opinion, and maybe the audience I was sat with, it didn't feel like a translation of the game, and I think that's actually the strength of Mario Brothers. I think.
Would you think Mario Brothers is a successful translation then?
The thing I love about Mario Brothers, which I think is its brilliance, is the fact that you have everything from the game in the film translated, but not necessarily in the order or the arrangement that you'd expect. Yeah. So you have characters like the big Birth of the Fish and
she's a fish in the game, but it's big lady in the film.
And but it's still there. They've twisted it. I like the fact. I mean, we'll mention this later, but just things like in the art direction. You've got things like those big studded triangles that are they're in 2D in the game, but they've literally translated them. They take it a step further and they make it part of bondage costumes and things, and they subvert it. They subvert the world, and it's fun, but it's also true to itself. I really like that.
I think the production design is where they kind of successfully kind of replicate elements from the game with like Bowser's kind of
Yeah.
castle, or the rooms as it were, as it is in his tower, which we'll get to shortly. But for me, the beginning of the film, where the introduction of the Mario Brothers, I always thought was probably the weakest part for me. It doesn't. I mean, it gives you a kind of simple backstory to the characters, but it's, you know, the moment where they're trying to get to their job and they're trying to go round the back alleys, trying to find the quickest way. It's not really that exciting. I think the momentum of the picture and where it becomes fun to watch is when, as soon as they step into Cooper World, the other dimension.
Possibly, but it's like the Wizard of Oz, isn't it? You're starting off in the real world, and then you've got to go into your fantasy world.
That's true.
I actually really like these opening scenes. I mean, Bob Hoskins is fantastic. I love this visual here. You see with the pin, what's it called? The pin board thing.
They were huge, weren't they, when they was kids?
But it was
so popular.
But in all the marketing for the film, they had shown that CGI particle animation of the face being pushed through the sand. You know, when Daisy's screaming out to Luigi to come get her. And I thought it was interesting when I actually saw the film at the beginning. When Luigi picks up that metal pin board thing and sticks it to his face, it created a similar visual, and it got me kind of excited for later on. And it's just there are so many clever, just visual touches that throughout the film, which are kind of a signature of the directors, Rocky Morton and Annabelle Yankel, who I think were quite ahead of their time. I mean, this was just
they were with the Max Headroom.
Absolutely.
Well, the music videos of the 80s.
Well, they did the amazing Elvis Costello Accidents Will Happen video, and they did Donald Fagen's New Frontier video, and just loads of other things. And of course, Max Headroom being the original Channel 4 pilot for Max Headroom. It was amazing, absolutely incredible, phenomenal.
Amazing production design in that,
but just
visuals.
The idea of the blipvert, which now you hear commonly, I mean, that's a different film entirely, but please, that's an amazing film. You should go watch that. But they in that and their other work, they managed to mix mediums. So they go from having, using computer graphics and using hand-drawn animation and mixing things up. And in Max Headroom, there are sequences where you have somebody sat at a computer, and then you'll zoom into a computer screen, and then you'll see just the world, things being executed. Because
didn't they contribute work to Electric Dreams, didn't they?
Yeah, Steve Barron's Electric Dreams. Yeah, I was going to say here, I just want to talk about what the film's about, and I have said to you before, I think this is the meaning of the. Well, I've read it as kind of like
the message about the film.
Yeah,
the themes.
What it's trying to say is that you can't escape your family roots, and I think obviously it starts off with Princess Daisy, who has been abandoned as a child. She accepts she's an orphan, but then she's trying to trace the roots of her, our ancestry and dinosaurs, and with that she discovers her own roots, and she's a mushroom. She's from the Mushroom Kingdom. That's really clever. And then, but I like the fact with the Scapellis here now and Mario and Luigi. They represent kind of small, the small guy. They're a family-owned business, family-run business. They're intimate with the community. I like the fact that and it's this. I know it's slightly stereotyped, but this Italian American Brooklyn, community, and Mario's girlfriend is Daniela, and they go to an Italian American restaurant, and it's like something out of an advert, but it's nice and tight. But then you got the Scapellis, who the name Scapelli, you'd think that's Italian American, but they're all suited, and you look at the branding that's on the side of their
it's
van.
It's got a kind of mafia thing behind it all.
But it's also saying, they're all, it's an international company, and they put residential, which they're competing with the Marios against for jobs. They've made that very much a third at the bottom of their, the list of things on the side of their van. And I think that's really interesting. It's really fun, but it's like they're betraying, and they turn up at this this dig, and they're just corporate. They're just completely against it.
Would you say
they've got no investment in the community?
Would you say Scapelli is kind of like their version of Cooper in their world?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because at the end, of course, he gets de-evolved by Cooper. But I thought that was kind of fun. And then, of course, so you've got that, and then you've got what's his face, Cooper, and Cooper is ashamed of his world. He's ashamed of being a dinosaur. He's as human as possible. He wants everything to be sterile, and you always feel like when it's just all those lovely visual touches where you see like his eyes dilate and stuff like a
well, that's
reptile.
once he's been put through that devolution machine, only for a brief moment where he begins to kind of become more animalistic as well.
But he's on a high horse, and he wants to escape his roots desperately. He wants to go to the human world. and that's quite interesting. And of course, he's got his Iggy and Spike, who we're seeing now,
Yeah.
who are much different. You know, they're I mean they're inferior. He's ashamed of them too. He's you know, he's almost like a bit like Hyacinth Bouquet in Keeping Up Appearances. You know, he doesn't want to know
What a
his
great
family.
connection there.
Yeah, you know. But no, I like that there is something there, and they play with it. And of course, none of that was in the video game, and it couldn't be. You know.
No, not at all. Because the writers had said, you know, the plot for Super Mario Brothers, there wasn't one. You know, it was just literally just save, get through the levels and save Princess Peach. I think it's Princess Peach in the game.
Yeah.
It's actually called Daisy. So obviously it's extremely difficult to sort of.
Is it Peach?
Well, I looked, because you said Peach to me yesterday, and I thought, wait a minute, that rings a bell. And I kind of went through Wiki, and it went, oh, it is Peach, Princess Peach. But the writers were saying, you know, trying to expand upon that, make a 90-minute movie or plus to make it work would be incredibly difficult. And it was the directors and, you know, the two directors who came up with the idea about the parallel dimension, didn't they? About the dinosaurs. And that's what kind of sold everyone on the idea. But during the course of the movie, all those ideas kind of got diluted and changed. And I think they'd also gone for a darker interpretation of Super Mario Brothers, make it appeal more towards adults. I suppose at the time studios probably were panicking because, you know, it's aimed at kids. Kids are going to be wanting to see this. And so during the course of the making of the movie, everything was kind of changed at the last minute. Scripts, you know, that day the scripts will be changed. Actors will be getting so furious and upset. And what we've left with is a movie that's kind of had too much influence by other outside parties, I suppose, studios. And I think it was Disney who came in at the last minute to give them more money.
Wasn't it?
To give them more money. It was independent production, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. It's Roland Joff who, you know, directed The Killing Fields
And The Mission.
and you know, these kind of big prestigious
art house
Putnam
movies,
you know, very and this is like a very American film, but it's made independently, as you say.
It's like something like Ridley Scott suddenly making Bob the Builder the movie. You're like, what the hell's going on? Why is he doing this?
It's amazing. I really like this sequence here when Luigi meets Daisy for the first time, and I think there is, you know, there's a joy to it. There's a fun, there's an innocence. It's kind of old fashioned, but I really like Samantha Mathis, and I really like
She's a great actress.
John Leguizamo. I think it's interesting that here he's kind of being pushed as a leading man. You know, as a heartthrob.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, because there's moments later on where, you know, he has to walk around with his top off to try and appeal to the female demographic.
And I think that's interesting because obviously we now know him as being a great actor and a great comedian.
Oh, he's brilliant because, you know,
and just so versatile.
He's still in so many movies.
Yeah.
You know, he's never like the main guy. He's always a great supporting character.
But he steals everything that he
does.
In, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just so interesting that you know, his starting point here in a big film.
Yeah, because I'd never heard of him before. So I saw him in this movie. To me, it was there because, like Tim had said, he saw it in a magazine about the film coming out. I think it must have been for me like something like Mean Machines or CVG, which is Computer and Video Games magazine. They're like a little, literally just a picture from the film. I thought, what is this? You know, I was quite excited to see it, but I never saw it in the cinema. I saw the poster. I thought the poster looked amazing for Super Mario Brothers, especially the UK quad poster, which had, you know, them kind of saluting and, you know, with the M logo, and you had all these other pictures from the movie. But it wasn't till I obviously never saw it when it came out in the cinema. But my friends all had seen it and told me it was terrible. They hated it even when they were like 9 years old. And it wasn't till maybe a couple of years later I made an attempt to watch it. But it just didn't gel with me at the time. I think as I've got older, I began to appreciate it more. Because now we've got the hindsight now of seeing so many other video game movies, and what, 8 out of 10 say most of them are terrible. And when you go back to Mario Brothers and think, oh god, it's not actually that bad, you know, considering we've had like, you know, so many Resident Evil sequels and they've all been dreadful. And you look at Mario Brothers and think, well, this is actually quite competently made.
Well, I think you have to measure it up to expectations as well. It's interesting too you say that just about production values and things, because a lot of the subsequent video game movies were kind of made at a kind of different scale, I think. I mean, for example, you have to remember on this film, the cinematographer is Dean Semler, who shot Dances with Wolves, which had won an Oscar for cinematography a couple of years before, and I don't think that happened on something like some of the later,
or something like, say for example, Resident Evil.
Yeah,
you wouldn't have a DP of that caliber.
No,
working on it.
but they've almost. But I think this is it. I think they've become almost like a horror film is.
Yes.
Like they've become a niche kind of thing. Like a niche market.
Because they only spend so much.
Yeah.
50 million now, maybe 80 million, and because they know the profit margin is going to be about 200 million, they can make most of the money on Blu-ray, DVDs.
But the thing is, they've worked out who the audience is. Nobody knew at this point.
But they can estimate how much money they're going to make.
I almost feel like this is. I think the closest film in a way is almost like Mario Brothers, the movie, The Gamble, because that was obviously an independent as well, music video director. And it's a property that's pre-existing, and it was kind of at its peak,
But no one else had made a movie like this before. So
nobody had made
but that's the gamble.
A Ninja Turtles movie. Nobody had made a Saturday morning cartoon. I mean, I guess you could say.
But Turtles, they still had a very limited budget.
Yeah,
considering the popularity of Turtles.
You're right. Yeah, no, you're right. And to have somebody like Roland Joff's name connected to it is something else. But yeah, no, I mean, I was just saying back to the film. I do like these kind of bookendy sequences. I like the fact that most of the film takes place, in the alternate world, in the Cooper world, and they don't jump between them.
Well, luckily, yeah, because when we on the making of for this Blu-ray, because it's on the Region B, like a European release, also counts for great making of. They say they're trying to save money. They were trying to say, have more scenes set on Earth. But if you look at it, most of it is set in the other world. And it's not like He-Man the movie where they spend 20 minutes in Eternia before then they spend most time on Earth. Yeah. So in retrospect, I mean, this is they actually kind of stuck to their guns and stayed in the Cooper world.
Well, it was kind of like, I think it was also quite like Batman in that you've got that absolutely massive set. That you build it and you have to use the most of it.
Use everything, yeah.
But also that it seemed to be a shift. Like production design was a big thing at that point. Building a world. I mean, I think that's what the other great strength of this is. It has like Ghostbusters. It has its own logic. It has its own rules. And it doesn't really take time to sit down and tell you them. It really, really well, like Max Headroom, it has all these complex ideas and it just shows you, it gets you see that everything through the character's eyes as the movie is playing. You don't stop to have an exposition sequence to say this is how the devolution works. This is how this works. You seeing it
because those directors, they obviously come from the music video world where you have to tell everything visually. You can't just do it with dialogue. So this really helps the movie where it doesn't stop to give you big chunks of expository dialogue. It gives you little bits of information here and there, which comes of all stories.
But this was a completely different era as well. I mean, you have to remember as well. I mean, while this was being made, Alien 3 was being released. Now, David Fincher is one of the top directors in the world. He's an incredible narrative filmmaker. Yeah, he is absolutely right at the top. Best, And at the time, that film was being written off, and he was a first-time filmmaker. He'd yet to do 7, and video. I think my point is music video directors and commercial directors, even though you'd had in commercials by this point, you'd had people like Alan Parker who had great success, and obviously Ridley Scott and Tony Scott with, sort of high-end commercial. But for music videos, I mean, there was, you had Russell Mulcahy.
That's right.
And Highlander, was that a success when it came out?
In Europe it was, but it didn't. It bombed in America, but it was really a big hit once it came to video.
But it was still it still didn't quite. And Ninja Turtles, Steve Barron, who'd made Electric Dreams, which obviously the directors of this had worked on, that had been a commercial. I don't think that had.
That was a bomb. Yeah, Electric Dreams. Yeah.
But whenever you read the review, a lot of the reviews at the time, it was always you were always reminded, this was a music video director doing this. This is this.
What you were saying to me is that the MTV style was often thrown about when critiquing movies during that period.
Yeah, well, if you look at the reviews for Ninja Turtles and you look at reviews for Highlander, this gets lost in MTV. There's too much fast-paced MTV. Yeah. Now Zack Snyder, he did music videos, didn't he, or commercials?
He did commercials, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure he did music videos as well. It's always something on his repertoire.
But he's handling a big budget Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
I don't think that was happening at this time. That wasn't the kind of way things were being done. You had people from film, from long form, making films, and I think.
So this came out 2 years later after everyone had kind of seen Alien 3 and seen the results of its box office. Well, Alien 3 did actually make quite a bit of money, but critically it was kind of panned.
Yeah.
But they would have thought twice about hiring those directors.
In my opinion, I don't think that music video directors were as accepted and respected in the same way that long form directors are now.
Yeah.
I think it was a different time. And I think that there are a lot of ideas in this. There's a lot of visual stuff that was probably beyond, I guess, maybe what was the standard of the time, of thinking at the time.
But especially where you think, if someone's making a music video, say 3 minutes, 4 minutes long, how's that person going to be able to tell a story over,
Yeah, but they're
2 hours?
But they're compacting. I mean, if you look at Fincher's stuff, if you look at Morton and Yankor's stuff, if you look at their, they managed to compact so much information. I mean, this is what they kind of send up with the Blipverts in Max Headroom, but they compact so much information into such a small amount of time, and it's all clear. There's clarity to it. There's geography. You know what's happening, and then they do things. I mean, They on top of it, they're mixing mediums, so they'll have live action mixed with computer graphics, mixed with animation, and it's effortless. And they condense things, and it's not like you're watching it. It's a series of abstract shots. They've done so many great, there's so countless examples of great music videos from I mean, even just from the 80s.
Yeah, yeah.
And things have become so sophisticated in the 90s, and. Yeah, and also the other thing as well is, I mean, now you have to remember as well, this was two directors. Now you've had the Wachowskis, you've had the Hughes brothers, even the Coen brothers call themselves...
The brothers Strauss, isn't there? Did the Alien vs Predator Requiem, didn't they?
Yes.
Skyline.
I think, isn't the new Pirates of the Caribbean film directed by two directors as well?
Is it? Oh, I didn't know about that.
So it's like a partnership thing, but that didn't happen at all. I can't think of anything.
Really. Yeah, because when I read about this and think, oh my god, there's two directors involved.
I think the Coen brothers are called. They're actually called it's a film by the Coen brothers now, isn't it?
Yeah, but before it was just called Ethan and Joel. Wasn't it?
Yeah. So I just think this was made in a different time. I mean, obviously I think these are interesting things to add to it that aren't really discussed. But I actually think the film has so much visual invention. And so much energy, and it's so clever, and it's fun. Sorry, go ahead.
Coming up, it's the first kind of big visual effects for the movies, with that kind of rippling effect, which they kind of foreshadowed earlier with the...
Yeah. Well, we've just seen it, with the particle animation, which, as you said...
But it always made us laugh, though, because when we watched the film again previously, and you see Bob Hoskins kind of somersault into the wall. I don't know how he does this, but he just kind of flips into it, doesn't he? And then goes into the other dimension. But when he goes through, the visual effects team they've actually added quite a lot of added lighting to him, so he actually looks like he's passing through it.
Yeah,
which is quite clever. Attention to detail.
There are just so many visuals in this that had never been seen before. Like genuinely.
You think the visual effects have stood the test of time for this movie?
I think that
they actually look a lot better on Blu-ray than I had in the old DVD and Laserdisc, which were quite muddy and orange. Didn't look very nice.
I just think the imagination is so high, and I think that also because there's so much digital compositing and things like particle animation. Well,
that was it, because that was one of the big selling points of the movie as a kid, seeing these TV shows, things like Bad Influence and things like that.
Yeah.
The particle animation was thing they always advertised. You seeing Bob Hoskins like break apart into bits. That was groundbreaking stuff.
Hey, I was just going to say, now we're actually into the city.
Is where it goes mental. It goes completely bonkers.
This is why. So we've just been in a world that's kind of
everyone in it has been kind of heightened, but it's the real world.
It's again that
everything's very bland and flat, but this just becomes
now it just now you're in Gotham City on steroids. You've
entered the world of Joel Schumacher to a certain degree.
Well, it's mayhem, isn't it? You've got everything. I love the way there's a serious music playing here, and you've got this reveal, and you just see this absolutely amazing set.
I love this shot here where the camera pans up. You see that great digital painting in the background, the mat. was great. Or it could be a miniature, actually. I'm not sure.
No, it's a matte
It's a
painting.
matte.
Yeah. But you see that when they're looking away, and you see things like the guy. You see things like this guy hanging off this lamppost, and you see another guy who's on a bike and he flies off this.
Just falls off his
But
bike
the music's
over this,
the music's
barrier.
completely straight faced as it's doing it.
It is. What do you think about Silvestri's score?
I think it's great. I mean, it feels very much like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and Bob Hoskins is in the film. But I love that, so it's fine. It feels appropriate and it's fun. And there's a little kind of stereotypical little Italian melody thing going on as well too, which is kind of fun. But there's just, I don't know, it is just like somebody's got the tone of a ton of different films and just stuck it for this world and stuck it all together and thrown it up in the air, and it just works. It's fun. It's just so much fun, and the monsters are so good. I really like the fact. The other thing I would like is that Patrick, I might be mispronouncing his name here, Patrick Tatopoulos.
Tatopoulos, yeah. He worked with Roland Emmerich, didn't he?
Later, I mean, he's designed the new Batman film, and he's designing the new Batman film, the Batman versus Superman.
Oh,
he's a production
Did
designer.
the Batman suit, or he's
he's actually the production designer of
Oh my
those
God.
films. He moved, and he was the production designer of the fourth Die Hard film as well.
That's right. He did Godzilla as well, didn't he?
But but in the 90s he was creature design.
guy.
Yeah, and this was his starting point before Stargate, but he does Stargate, ID4, Aliens, Godzilla. They've got that kind of look to them. That kind of reptilian, kind of jagged kind of look.
Because at the time when he got hired for this, he wanted to be a production designer, and then they go, no. David Snyder said, no, you're designing creatures. This is what you've got to do.
But I like, for example, how they changed things like Toad and the Goombas and they all kind of they look of that world.
The one character that disappointed me was Toad, because it had Toad. For me, in the video game, he wasn't someone who played an instrument. He was just a dude you kind of meet who had his kind of toadstool head.
But isn't it fun how he becomes this kind of political, this activist singer? I thought it was great.
I think for adults looking at it, I think they're probably, let's say when adults were familiar with the game to a certain degree, and then they could see those kind of comparisons and those kind of strange twists they do on the characters and do something different, may kind of appreciate that. But I think for kids going in, they wanted to see the characters they knew, and this movie doesn't really do that well, to me, because you're throwing in like Toad, and you've got the big lady we see later on, who is what was the character she was supposed to be?
The Big Bertha.
Yeah, Big Bertha. You think where the kids can't see that comparison,
but it's there. It's there. That's what's fun about it.
It's there.
It's validated.
It's got a very small kind of link to them, but it's not that obvious. I don't think. I mean, most people would think, okay, who's this character? And they go, oh, it's Toad, whatever. You'd be like, really?
Okay, and on screen right now we're seeing Lena, who is portrayed by Fiona Shaw, who's a great Irish actress who everyone knows from the Harry Potter films now.
That's right.
But at this point, she is a great stage actress and a great serious actress, and she'd done My Left Foot, and she'd done for Disney films like Three Men and a Little Lady, and here she is in this, and I think she just, again, you got Dennis Hopper as the villain, and then you have her. These are big actors.
Well, she's an original character. She's not based on something from Super Mario Brothers.
But I really enjoy her. I like the fact she's in that fetish outfit as well. That's quite funny. In fact, we're about on the street scene here now. This is a great scene with the the grandma, just mad, absolutely. The surrealness, the kind of the absurdity of this world and the lack of rules is so much. It's just so much fun.
It tricks the audience now into thinking, oh, she's going to help them. Suddenly she wants Cooper coins, which is part of the part of the video games. The coins,
and again, in a way that you don't expect it.
Mm.
I mean, when you're running around as Mario collecting coins, the idea of having a mugging to get those coins, it's quite a dark idea, but it's funny.
It'd be interesting if they actually had more of the coins, or had this process where they get loads of coins or something like that.
I mean, look at this. Look, you've got this roadway that's underneath, and then you've got all these kind of like walkways at the top for no reason. And a lot of the time, because they shoot on really wide lenses a lot of the time, you can see there are devices that are just stuck like around the city, just spraying sparks for no reason.
There's a lot of
They're just
visual
fun.
comedy, isn't there?
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
background?
tons.
It's a bit like
so much loving detail.
It's like watching a Naked Gun movie
Yeah,
where you're looking in the background.
It's meticulous, and there's just so much energy and movement. But again, in like a 30-second commercial, you have to cram a lot of visual detail that people are seeing two things that are going on at once or whatever,
Oh, sure.
and it's just, I think that is what this film benefits from. It's really, really rich in that respect. And here's Bertha, we were saying before. She's a fish, and they've turned her into this big lady with a with fetish outfit and massive cleavage. And it's like they've bent the rules. I'm sorry, I really like Toad. I really like I like him as this activist. Yeah, I think
the guy gives a great performance. He's not bad or anything like that. But I as a kid, and I'm sure other Nintendo fans at the time were just like, "What the hell? Who is this supposed to be?" So. Yeah, I mean, I kind of appreciate it now, but I mean, it's a satire behind it all. But I mean, it's
in the game. He's an aide to the princess, isn't he, or to the king?
That's right. Yeah,
and that's what he's doing here.
He does do that,
and it's not literal. They could have made her his assistant. He follows Daisy around. He follows the king. Oh,
but it's kind of like he gets turned into one of those, Cooper guys, and he's. He no longer becomes Toad.
I love that billboard. You see in the background, there's a billboard of Cooper kissing a baby.
Yeah,
that's brilliant. It's absolutely so funny. But yeah, you could have made him a more literal. I mean, you could have had him introduced here. You could have had him being, the aide to, to the king, and him saying, "Oh gosh, Daisy, could you help us?" Da, 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 like in the game, sort of expositioning.
Sure, dude, yeah.
But I like the fact that they kind of go, "Oh no, how could we make this interesting? How could he aid the royalty? Oh well, the king's been de-evolved, so what if there's an activist who wants to go back to how isn't that such a clever idea, so funny, and it create again the world. Look at this. I love this bungee cord thing that they've got on the police station.
They can't break in this dimension, can they?
It's so funny. And look, more sparks, just endless sparks just spraying for no reason, but they look cool, they look so good, you get it. It's so much fun.
I like the gag though where the cops have, instead of having these cameras that like massive guns, don't they? They sort of take a snapshot of them all.
And look at that. I mean, it's a cliche from a film. This is a detail that you'd see in an advert.
This is like something you'd see in a John Landis film where they're thrown in Frank Oz as a cameo.
Right, yeah.
It's that kind of moment. But if you
look to the side of him, it's obvious. I mean, it's not said, but it's obviously a prostitute from their world. With her, she's digging her heel into his shoulder. It's not said, but like we've got a sequence that lasted about 30 seconds there, and you just got
so much information.
Oh wow, this is a corrupt police station. Again, that's something that you'd have in advertising.
But also coming up, isn't it, when they try to escape? Well, actually, you noticed yesterday. You made note of it, where that poster on the wall says corruption.
Yeah,
corruption cannot be reported.
Just endless detail. So. I mean,
do you think this moment has a bit of Brazil like to it?
Absolutely, yeah. And again, Max Headroom.
Yes.
Which was a dystopian, futuristic piece that was made at the same time as Brazil. There
were so many things going on with dystopian stuff, wasn't it, in the early 90s?
It was mid-80s.
Yeah, of course, as well.
85. And this is, the mugshot, and the fun, the whole gag too, that they're Mario and Luigi Mario. Yeah. And I love the fact that they say it with us. It doesn't make sense. They say it with a straight face. It's like, that's it. Mario, Luigi, Mario. That's
so many
stupid.
fans fans were so angry about that.
But the film was just
so lazy, lazy writing.
It's like Mario, really? Yeah, yes, and that's it. Oh, okay. It's great. Oh, it's so funny.
But because a couple of years ago, in the Guardian, I think it was, where the Bob Hoskins had discussed Super Mario Brothers and said it was the worst movie of his career. And the directors obviously are fully aware of that, and they felt that Bob had was extremely professional on set. Was very nice and things like that. And it was I'm not sure where the source came from, but after Bob had passed away, his son loved his father in the movie. He thought he was brilliant, and as a kid, when he saw his dad, he thought. He wasn't aware of the bad reviews and doesn't care about them now. But he was just, happy his dad, was in it, and he's still happy with his performance.
I was going to say, this prison sequence is amazing. I love the fact that everything's caged. I like that primal animalistic thing.
This is like 2000 AD or something like that, where everyone's just shoved into these tiny prisons.
It feels more like a satire than the actual Judge Dredd film did.
Oh, definitely.
You know,
yeah,
that's what's
the
funny.
Stallone one, yeah, definitely.
And just this cordoned area too that you've got for Larry Lazard,
Yeah.
which is obviously Cooper.
This reminds me of Split Second, where like Rutger Hauer goes into the police station. It's this tiny
Well,
office.
it's so
and just gets
madly open
grilled.
plan. Of course, I
Yeah.
think everyone knows now that this film was filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina, and it was filmed in a giant concrete factory.
Cement factory, yeah.
yeah. And but it's like, so they've got this giant indoor kind of thing. It's not like something like Batman was a backlot set. That was
Yeah.
a massive outdoor thing. This is an indoor, self-contained city, so they've got complete control over it. But I like the fact they haven't just gone, okay, let's just put a real world inside. They've played with the form, and they've kind of looked at the form of the factory and then played it. Like, this prison doesn't look like a traditional prison. It looks more like a coop, you know, for
does, yeah.
chickens or something, you know, or it looks like a dog pound. You know,
Yeah.
and I like the fact that constantly there's this feeling too of hierarchy in the film. I like the fact that Cooper lives and elevated up above everything. There's like there are social levels to the film. You know, you've got everything kind of at the bottom. You've got the cars at the bottom, and then you got everything goes at the top. And you got a desert outside where everything's kind of worthless. And I like the fact that they, you know, it's like you get sent to prison. You are the lowest scum. You're on your knees.
Oh, definitely.
You're treated as animals. And I love
Anyone doesn't conform to the way his
Yeah.
way of thinking.
But also too, he's suited all the time. He walks around. Sorry, Cooper is suited.
Yeah, he's the only one. Him and his mistress are the only ones who kind of
Yeah.
who look like who dress really well. Everyone else is basically like kind of spandex, kind of like sexual outfits.
Well, she has it too, but I like the fact that it's almost he's a repressed lizard all the way. He doesn't want anyone to know. There's no dignity to it. He wants to be as human as possible.
But he has the T-Rex hands.
He's got
he's
got the little poised
walks.
hands, and he's got. Even his hair looks, which is kind of a spin on the Max Headroom haircut. It's kind of reptilian, isn't it?
Yes.
If you look at it, it's really cleverly worked out. And you got those little gags like where his eyes dilate and things, which are so clever. But and the devolution chain. But I love this character Simon.
He says nothing, but Tim loves him.
He just giggles, you know. But again, he's like something you'd see in an advert, you know. He's in this for about 30 seconds, which is about as long as now. You remember him? He's he's just like smirking to himself, you know. It's just awful.
I love the devolution visual effect. It's really good. It's the next phase, next step on from the morph effect using like Willow and.
But listen, do you know what else?
Robocop 3.
Do you know what else makes that great though? Is the fact that even within a visual effects sequence, they've got it on a really wide kind of Terry Gilliam style.
They have, yeah.
You know, wide angle lens, and it to distort it to make it look even wackier, and you just get there's so much rich.
And that visual storytelling there of the computer monitor, just showing you the devolution system, how it works, without having to say this is what happens.
Well, that's
blah, blah,
very
blah.
Max Headroom.
Yeah.
And this is the way the audience knows what's going on. But I mean, we've said this before with things like Ghostbusters. Nowadays, I feel like you almost have to have a training sequence in a film to show how you
have to give someone like a basic instruction manual of how this film works.
This is our world. These are our rules. This is us testing the world. Whereas they just go full on this, but you still get it. It's great.
Yeah. The
comedy too of the tiny heads on the Goombas.
That's brilliant, isn't it? I love all that.
So clever.
It's great kind of, you've got this great animatronic on top, tiny little thing, and then you've got this person in the suit who can't really see where they're going, and you've got this trying to operate these arms as well.
And they're incredibly articulate as well.
They are.
They've got so much movement.
I was always like, what? I did think they were a little bit scary as a kid. Because these giant things, these tiny little heads.
Well, you got to remember as well, like, as we were saying, Patrick Tatopoulos did Stargate and he did Independence Day and Godzilla, and they're all kind of like, they're not kids movies. They're not R-rated movies either, but they're not
they're kind of aimed at a teenage market.
They're a bit they're a bit darker than Star Wars,
Yeah, oh yeah.
And and this is a kids film, and this is a wild, wacky world with all these kind of. I mean, in here it's got like you've got white and yellow and red primary colours, and then you've got these Goombas that look like they're kind of they look like something more.
Did
horrific.
You see on the floor then that liquid? Where's that liquid come from?
I didn't notice.
Yeah, there's loads of it everywhere.
The gunk.
Gunk. I think that maybe something's been cut from there. Someone else is being de-evolved.
Well, generally the whole place looks worn down. I mean, even here is
but the floor was clean earlier when all these kind of gunks come out. Yeah, that's a bit strange. Is the mushrooms
and the fungus, the running gag of the.
I'm surprised like Luigi didn't eat it. Get really high in the film.
But that's really cool, and the bomb as well.
Wasn't that apparently that was thrown in quite late on, that
Really?
idea? Yeah.
With the Reebok trainers.
Yeah, the Reebok
so
trainers.
funny.
Yeah.
So clever. And again, they're I mean, those are tiny little things, aren't they? It's there's like have a 5mm kind of logo for Reebok stuck on the side.
Because the script didn't really have much referencing the game. I think it was one of the other writers had to come in and kind of include more references for the kids because they're going to be trying to look for these kind of points. But now with the weapon itself, it's firing out the fireballs, which Mario kind of powers up once he gets
another
the flower.
element that's from the game that's in there. And it's just mad. It's madcap, and you got the people watching on and cheering and laughing. The kind of, I guess the creature world, the dinosaur population, they kind of run the gamut, don't they? They're everything from fully developed dinosaurs to humans of all kinds of different races.
Yeah, yeah.
And it kind of, and you also have kind of people who've got half of a face with half a reptilian face. Or,
that's right. Yeah.
Or even,
they don't make much of an effort to point out where some of these people have kind of what dinosaur they have evolved from.
And
because Cooper comes from the T-Rex, but his mistress, could she be a raptor? I don't know, because she has that weird moment where her head spins really quickly. So I don't know where that's come from.
And this is made before Jurassic Park as well.
Yeah, because the raptors in that film were giant. In reality, they were quite small, weren't they? Raptors were.
I noticed here in the card, did you notice it said Motorola?
He did,
on the side at one point. There are little branding things, that and the Reebok thing, that appear, that kind of break the kind of reality of the world. But,
sure.
But I don't care. It doesn't affect me.
No, it didn't really bother me about that. This whole kind of car chase sequence is a bit bonkers. It all goes a bit like Blues Brothers, just with cars going everywhere. People can't seem to drive properly in this film, can they?
The comedy sound effects as well, the kind of Looney Tunes sound effects that are stuck in every here and there.
Yeah.
At every given moment, they stick in graphic displays, don't they?
They do, yeah. They're a bit less than Max Headroom, sorry, but that style of their direction is clearly obvious throughout this film.
Yeah.
Trying to always throwing in visual references with a computer screen or TV screen.
And there's so much of that kind of humour that you also get. I guess, again, I associate it with adverts where you're kind of like, you're smiling, you're not laughing, you're not belly laughing, but you're smiling. You're kind of makes you feel good inside, kind of thing. There's a lot of things where it's just a little detail that makes me smile.
Do you know if there was any toys from the film?
There were, yeah.
I'm sure there was a car, the police car you could buy.
Yeah. I wish I'd bought all of them. They had the playset too, didn't they? Wasn't the playset kind of wasn't it similar to the Terminator 2 one?
Well, you put the figure in.
You got gunk that goes into it.
Oh, I don't know. I should have to look that up.
Shit. I think
I have to find that.
Yeah. Well, nearly everything had a toy set, didn't it?
They did, yeah. I remember the Dick Tracy figures,
and
but they're quite short and stumpy, weren't they?
The Shadow as well.
The Shadow had figures, yeah. Wish I kept some of those.
This is madcap. The way cars are flying around left, right, and centre. You're right. It is very Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
Isn't there?
Because it reminded me of Blues Brothers earlier, because when they threw the old lady off, and there's cars in the background just smashing and stuff.
I was going to mention too that the guy who directed the second unit action on this, or certainly the second unit, credits at the end, is James Davis, who had done a lot of James Bond films in the 80s.
Oh, did he? He worked with John Glenn, did he?
Yeah. I mean, that shot there, the car exploding, and the fireball comes through it. It looks like something out of a big, legitimate action film.
Something out of a Stallone movie.
Yeah. But then you go straight back to Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all shot on a long lens, and it all looks really, smoky and cool. And then the next minute, it goes comedy, and you've got sound effects.
All those kind of sparks and stuff.
Yeah,
it also reminds me a little bit of the kind of dystopian world of Highlander 2, where you've got this kind of city that's kind of futuristic but dark.
The spark spray everywhere. Oh, it's so much fun. I love this when
it's a great miniature that flies out the tunnel.
The miniatures are brilliant.
Because who were the effects done by? It's in-house, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it wasn't really done by a...
wasn't done by ILM or
Apogee
or something like that.
Well, also, all these kind of effects, there wasn't really a place where things happen. I mean, the overall supervisor of the film was Christopher Woods, who I believe worked on the digital end of R. Greenberg, the company that did...
Richard Greenberg, yeah.
Yeah, who did Predator and did Superman titles and whatever. And I think he did other Disney films like Terminal Velocity. Because
this film has a bunch of companies kind of contributing certain sequences, don't they?
No. I think it's largely
just one big company,
and then there's an in-house miniature unit that are set. I think that's what I'm just getting from looking at the credits and from everything I've read. There's some wonderful websites out there, by the way. Well, there's one particular really good one, isn't there?
Old Super Mario Brothers Movie.com, SMBmovie.com, yeah, because they're the ones that kind of really have really pushed the sort of fandom of the movie, and even the box, the Blu-ray itself has them credited on the back. Sort of go visit this website.
Yeah,
and those guys have got tons of storyboards and kind of detailed information on the original scripts and what was deleted, and
it's just so affectionate.
It is, yeah. I mean, I think every movie that you kind of sort of forget about, one corner of the world there's a website and a huge fan base that kind of cling together and kind of love a
without any
movie.
irony, or anything, and any kind of dig or any kind of apology,
No,
I'm sorry, I like this movie that I love.
No, they just clearly admit, they love this movie and don't care what anyone says.
I know I shouldn't like this movie, but no, they it's great. It's really, really great.
The best production design element for me of this movie is this layer here. I love the design. The lighting's beautiful.
Yeah,
and
the use of mud, just an element that, again from prehistoric times, and they use it in the wet on mud. How do we get that? Beauty cosmetics, and the whole thing of him cleanliness. It's so clever. To take those ideas. It feels like such a tight world, but massive too at the same time. There's a lot of overt sexuality in the film too, isn't it? I mean, we mentioned the bondage costume before. The costumes alone, actually.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cleavage in the film.
Yeah, everyone's wearing these bras, pushing everything up.
Everyone's kind of scantily clad.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing, but especially for a kid.
I suppose because with the world of Cooper, everyone's kind of very sexualized, and
but they look everyone looks empowered as well too.
They do. I mean, she's got a powerful position, with Cooper, but she's after power as well. She has her own ideals and goals.
But the other thing that you were saying, which I think is really true, is that with that costume there too, even though it is it's a business dress, it's a power dress, isn't it?
It is.
It still looks totally reptilian.
There is a bit to it, but with the design on her corset piece.
But you get it, and the way she walks as well, the way that the dress, it's so long and tight, it makes her kind of walk like a lizard. It's just so clever, clever little things like that. Brilliant. And we get to see the devolution chamber again with Iggy and Spike.
Well, Cooper's now completely fed up with their stupidity. And basically, you think he would have made them intelligent quite early on if he kind of was frustrated with them and they weren't doing what they were told, weren't completing their missions. You think he would have just gone, okay, right, well, I'm going to put you through this machine and make you smart. So if he'd done this beforehand, they would have kidnapped Daisy straight away. They wouldn't have had this complete kerfuffle of capturing these other women.
And he is related to them, isn't he?
Yeah, he's their cousin.
Yeah.
They are in the video game. They're only in Mario Brothers 3, where you go to different castles, you bump into them.
But I like that, the ongoing family shame of the Coopers, and just where,
they don't really have much reptilian kind of design to their outfits and their hair, I don't think.
I don't know. Well, everything, reptilians tend to have very sort of dynamic faces, don't they, and heads. And
he has that kind of pattern, that triangle pattern design, like King Cooper's castle on his jacket.
Yeah,
I think that's the only kind of visual reference.
No, I think the hair is very much too. Yeah, and
to me, it was just they're just the sort of comedy kind of sidekicks thrown in.
All the guys tend to in this. They tend to be in these kind of sort of leather or kind of pattern, reptilian, snake skin kind of looking clothes,
that's right,
blazers and things, and they're all wearing necklaces and medallions and things on their hands. A lot of them have got hand things with knuckle dustery kind of thing, because it looks like reptilian claws, clever things like that. And I think the hair, the way it's slicked back again, it's dynamic. It's like a reptile. And yet all the women are kind of scantily clad. But it also works.
But Daisy's not like that at all. But they make her into that to fit within their world, don't they?
She is dressed somewhat like she is in the video game, isn't she?
Well, she's given the dressing. Because in the game she's kind of more of a pink kind of poofy dress. It's like a sort of like a typical princess kind of outfit they'd have in Disney or something like that.
If you look around her shoulders, she's got these kind of crystals.
She has
stones and things.
I presume it's that sort of. I presume it's her mother's dress they've put her in. I think it is.
Do you know what? We're just talking about visual detail in the film endlessly because there is so much.
There is a lot.
It's really well directed.
You really have to. You have to. There's a lot to take in of information.
Yeah.
You know, there's all stuff in the background. Something as Tim was saying, stuff on their hands, the rings and stuff.
Even there's that elemental things in the film that are in the game as well. So you've got things like there isn't quicksand actually, is there, in the Mario Brothers game? In any of them?
No, there is. There is.
Which
I'm
one?
sure there is. Where I think they made Mario Brothers 2. I think
But
you got the snake level. You got the Aztec kind of level.
Oh yeah. And also fire.
Yep,
You know,
fire's a
we've seen
big
fire.
deal. Yeah,
And it's there, and that's in Cooper's lair, and they recalibrate that for this movie. We were saying before, it's funny how John Leguizamo has his top off, you know, in this sequence as he's walking around.
You don't want to see Bob Hoskins' gut.
No, but again, they're marketing at that point as this kind of young leading man.
Yeah.
I think that's quite fun. And also, we've got you mentioned
so he
before.
has to be reminded here. Where did these humans evolve from? You know, he goes, "Oh, apes." He goes, "Oh, yes." He's forgot. You know.
But also, you were mentioning before about using guns to select things on the screen as a device.
Yeah.
Which is what they did on
Duck Hunt.
Duck Hunt.
Yeah,
on the selection screen. Do you?
No, on the NES, you could shoot. You could shoot the game on player, wasn't it? You could shoot Duck Hunt, or it was clay shoot.
But it's using it's using that grammar of the video game in the movie as a detail, and you get it really quickly.
But you saw then, you know, a quick shot of the Super Nintendo Super Scope gun, which they use as the de-evolved weapon at the end. Which basically all they've done is kind of added a little bit more detail and spray painted it grey.
Yeah. And here's Yoshi. Oh, isn't this such a great animatronic?
It's a beautiful stuff. I mean, it's really good. It's great how they've kind of removed, because
the rig
is a big black rig. They've they covered it over with this kind of black material.
It's Jurassic Park worthy, isn't it?
It is
amazing.
Same level as Phil Tippett's work, I think. Or was it
Stan Winston?
Stan Winston, yeah.
It's beautiful, really beautiful animatronic.
Now this is a great visual reference here when he spins the globe.
And
it shows this complete wasteland and just a tiny city left.
Yeah. No, it's great.
But also,
notice in this shot, it's flamed. You've got the city in the background, and there's fire behind it. It's on fire.
Yeah. But there's one moment. It's a bit. I don't really get where they've thrown in the Statue of Liberty in this world. You see it later on.
Oh yeah.
I don't get that, and because it's supposed to represent liberty.
Yeah, but
Reebok,
come on,
that,
you've got Reeboks on the bombs,
I know.
And you got Motorola in that police
That's
thing.
true.
I think we can stretch the fact that they got this French built thing. I think
they
France doesn't exist.
They went a little bit too far with those kind of like brandings.
Oh, it's fun.
Could have had their own. It should have been its own spin on Reebok, though. You know,
I like the fact that here he's quite sophisticated, Cooper, and he's trying to. I don't know. Is he trying to? It's almost like he's
trying to woo her, isn't he? In a way, he's trying to.
Yeah.
He's fascinated with the other world, isn't he? So
he puts her in a nice dress, and he makes it as sophisticated as possible and civilized
in his eyes. But to her, it's still really creepy.
And all the reptilian stuff is seeping through. We saw before, as I said before, about that eye sort of dilating, and then there's a bit here where he does with his tongue right now. You see that? Which is so cool.
Do you think that's happened because he's gone for the devolution process, or he already did that anyway?
It's his roots. It's his family roots coming through. Yeah, I think that's where the film kind of is. That's the dynamic. It's people, you know, it's different people going on different directions of the ladder of their family evolution.
See, some of that he can't control. I think it's slowly changing.
It's a tick, isn't it, that comes through? But it's pushed down and pushed down and pushed down. There's a great feeling. I mean, we'll get there at the end, but you know, at the end where he transforms into like that
big dinosaur
form, you know, you get the feeling that he really resents it. You know, because he's really showing it. It's like, again, we were saying, like when Hyacinth Bouquet's family turns up, you know, and she's like, oh, you know, it's that kind of feeling. You know, you get that.
Well, he does try to hide his face, doesn't he, when he gets transformed?
It's the worst
weird
thing.
Moon buggy,
and it's like the Scapellis. To a degree, you know. I think.
Yeah. I mean, for me, this movie always kind of lost its momentum at this point. Once they kind of get into the wasteland, it's the movie tries to get back to Cooper World quite quickly. You always think they didn't know really what to do here.
It's
because they cut out the crash as well. You see him fly over the camera, then you just got the vehicle just thrown in on the left to say, okay, they crashed. Now they're in this kind of mud.
It becomes a sort of sketch sequence, doesn't it?
It
Between the
does,
Mario
yeah.
brothers and the Cooper cousins.
And does he, the Cooper cousins kind of begin to realise, because obviously got improved intelligence, that they're working for the bad guy.
Yeah. But
And they're quite easy to manipulate as well.
It feels less like Mad Max though in the desert landscape, and more like something like The Bed-Sitting Room by Richard Lester. You know, it feels surreal. It just feels oddly just weird, even though there's nothing in it. It's nothing there. It feels.
They could have done more actually with this sequence when they, you had them looking through the binoculars and you're seeing this kind of landscape.
Sight gags and things.
You could have had sight gags, but you could have had more destruction of the world. Seeing the city being destroyed, like
and Easter eggs from the game and whatnot.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you you had in Mad Max 3, you saw some of these cities being destroyed. And it's kind of near the end, I think. But it would have been nice to see some of that.
Mm. There's a great shot now, isn't there, coming up of the tower?
Definitely, yeah, really good.
It looks like it's CGI.
I believe it's CGI.
And it starts off in a massive wide shot.
Me and Tim, we quite like the Mortal Kombat movie, and you see a sequence where the camera pans up towards this big tower, and this looks far superior, and it was 2 years earlier.
It's such a great... I mean, this was a visual that had never been seen before as well. There just weren't things like this at the time.
No. I think there's a little bit maybe... in Lawnmower Man has something like this, but the effects were really ropey.
But that is a deliberately computer graphic. That's a deliberately artificial world. This is like creating its own reality. And this was still a time of motion control photography and miniatures and matte paintings done on glass and there just wasn't anything kind of like that.
No, not at all.
I find it weird. I still find it weird that it kind of didn't. I mean, I would have thought it would at least get an Oscar nomination for its visual effects.
I think something should have been. I think someone should have complimented it, at the time and said, "Look, this is a lot of good work in this movie." But it always goes with those things where if a movie just completely bombed, it received bad reviews.
Just look at that dumpster truck.
Any sort of critics, any sort of nominations would be completely wiped off.
Did you notice the dumpster truck had sparks spraying off the top of it?
Yeah, sparks. Why's it got sparks
everywhere? There must have been a company that made spark machines that just made a fortune off this film.
These characters are quite weird. I don't know what they're supposed to be kind of evolved from. And they've got these weird... They're like... There's something else they remind me of.
From Flash Gordon?
Yes!
What are they in Flash Gordon?
They're just the troops, aren't they? They go... when they get killed, they go... don't they, when they die, so...
Well, it's the kind of... I don't know what you call them. Is it... Gimp mask or something?
Yeah, it's a gimp mask, yeah.
Very weird. It is, it's just...
This reminds me of the season 3 of A League of Gentlemen, There's these weird kind of...
but I love all that surreal humour.
Sexually obsessed people get killed off in that hotel.
So much, it's just endless surreal humour. I think if you go in asking questions about, why is this here, why is the Reebok... that's not what the film's about at all. And now they're at a fetish bar, the boom bar.
Yeah.
And everyone's wearing underwear and lingerie. And
then the guy, like Luigi's like, whose suit is this? Oh, he goes, it's one of my ex-wives,
Yeah.
It's like, what? A woman wore this?
I mean, none of it's subtle. There's actually, I think there's a lady there dressed in a Mario Brothers outfit.
Now, you pointed out, actually, I'd not noticed before, when they, on the dance floor, the video game of Mario Brothers is projected on the wall.
Yeah.
It's not the actual game. It's kind of like it's like a montage of sequences because you see the ghosts, don't you?
Yeah. It's the SNES version, isn't it?
I think
it's
Super Mario Brothers World. Yeah.
I love this detail here. I love every so often too in this world, the directors for whatever reason they go handheld on wide lenses.
Yeah.
And it gives it this sort of weird, sort of intimate vibe, but they do it just sort of inconsistently, just to throw things off, and it complements the shots at the best times and things. It's just really interesting. It's like this choreographed dance sequence.
Yeah, it was kind of twisting their head like that. It's strange.
And I think Barry Lather did the choreography on this as well.
What does he work on?
He did. My mind's gone blank. Really bad. That's one for Google. No, he's very good choreographer. And again, we were saying before about the costumes. Just
way over the top.
But completely sexualized.
Everyone is. There's as you say, there's no one dressed like Cooper at all.
And through that window you can see the Hammer Brothers store.
Yeah.
It's like a tattoo. It says tattoo shot and it's got Hammer Brothers.
Well, that's a weapon you can pick up in Mario 3, I think it is. The hammer.
Look at the dense layers of extras all in the background as well.
There's so much going on because everything is built around that whole set. There's always windows you can look out onto and see outside and see other people. You know, everything's so busy.
Yeah. Look at Bertha's outfit.
It's mad, isn't it? Because as you can see in the background, if you look closely, you can see the projected video game of Super Mario World.
Yeah. But all this is all this stuff that's in the costume. I mean, apart from just where it is just literally underwear, it is kind of referencing the game. I like this scene. You know the scene where he dances with Bertha. I really like this. I think
it's nicely done. I mean, it's a ploy to get the crystal, as it were.
Well, if you were to
say the asteroid piece, but it's a little bit long-winded though.
But it's oddly kind of almost moving. I mean, it's the fact that he's got a girlfriend already and he's lowering himself to this, and there's this, this lady in bondage underwear, and they're having a dance, and then he's biting into her cleavage to get the stone.
Yeah.
On paper it's terrible, but Bob Hoskins is so good.
There's one character on the left there who's actually still a kind of dinosaur-like.
Really?
He's got his makeup prosthetic on.
Do you like it when they cut to the wide shot and you can see that big trail of flame going around?
Yeah, I love that.
And in the top right you can see that there's a band called The Saws as well.
Because this film has a lot of already existing music paid for, licensed to be in it, which is
there behind them. There you can just see there's two dinosaur people.
There's
that's crazy.
The great song that's featured in the film that came out a few years earlier. Was it "Walking with the Dinosaur"?
Walk with the Dinosaur.
Yeah,
but this is a cover with George Clinton,
right?
Singing the.
I love that song. It's fantastic.
Yeah, here just
kick thing now.
I like that movie cliche too, which they dial it up to 11 in here, where everybody knows the choreographed dance sequence.
Oh yeah,
and it stops people from getting in. Look, everyone is actually walking with the dinosaur. It's great, but I like that. I kind of really like too how it's communicated without the whole sequence with Dance with Bertha. There's no dialogue in it, and you know what's happening. You know he's after that. You know she has a crush on him too. And at the end, it's kind of when she bumps into him and she gives him that little kiss.
Yeah,
it feels like really kind of like tastefully platonic. It doesn't feel like she's lustfully after, even though she's wearing like basically sex underwear.
I think the thing is that most people are intimidated by her, and no one really approaches her. So he's had the confidence to go up to her and talk to her. And now she's she's actually a really nice person.
But I think she's also smart enough to know. She's kind of seeing what the bigger picture is too.
Yeah,
she's a kind of she's not like to Toad degree, but she's very much anti-establishment. I think as a character, I think it's great fun for her, to punch this woman out, and and then help them get away with the boots and things, and sort of be on their side. And I like the fact when she appears at the end as well. She's quite a cool character.
Did you see the seat then? The seat had the spikes as well. Yeah. Who would sit on that,
I think there's a walkie-talkie later in a TV set that also have them as buttons. So you'd be pressing your fingers onto these spikes.
Ow, ow, ow.
Yeah. It's clever.
All the sound effects on a video game.
And this is iconography from the game, isn't it? The jumping.
That's right.
But they do it, they rationalise it for their universe.
Because you couldn't have someone that's literally just jumping everywhere without any sort of power.
The film takes so many liberties. I'm just wondering if could they have made it work if they just jumped?
No, I don't think so. I wouldn't have bought that. I don't think the fans would have really fallen for that. I do love those boots though. I love to own those. I wonder if those props are around anymore.
Just the endless walkways that kind of don't go anywhere.
There's a really quick shot now when they jump into the waste disposal unit or the vehicle, and it's an amazing shot of the city. It's only a quick shot they show you, but it's so detailed.
That's the other thing too, because a lot of these films, like you hear sometimes when they build a universe in like a backlot or something, people will say, "Oh, it looks like there's 2 blocks, and that's that's all they built, and that's all it kind of looks like." In this, because they use the matte paintings at just the right points, and they film things, and they redress things at just the right points, it just feels massive. It really does.
It does feel
huge.
massive, but there is a lot of problems with its geography, especially when you get to the Cooper building. You don't know really how it all connects. But
it doesn't matter. But that is like, do you know what? That is like the game. Because it's all pipes and stuff.
I suppose, it's a bit like a maze.
Which we haven't really talked about. The whole piping system thing. That's pretty integral to the game all the way through. And they make it a design element in this. In fact, I like the fact that later on they have that chase through the pipe system, Oh, I love the way this is shot. This stuff.
Dutch angles going on.
Yeah. I mean, you could talk about just the form of this all day because there's so much like, loving detail. So much is going on in every frame. Well, it's Dutch and it's on a wide angle lens, kind of close up.
Do you think they should have had the king, the Mushroom King, kind of put forward a bit more in the story? Because it's over an hour and 4 minutes into the movie, and you only kind of just been shown him.
No, because it creates suspense. They set up the mushrooms as well at the beginning,
Sure.
don't they? They're all the fungus. They call it fungus. Again, they don't just go. These are just mushrooms. Because in the game, they were just like they're isolated mushrooms on their own, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're just one thing on their own.
Because they just power you up, don't they? Make you bigger.
Yeah, but this creates an organic landscape of fungus.
Look at that shot. It's great.
It is great. It is just weird seeing the whole Twin Towers thing, isn't it? It's weird.
Yeah, it's a bit weird now, isn't it?
Did you ever play the game Urban Strike?
Yes, on
There's
Mega
a
Drive.
sequence in that where
You got to take out buildings and stuff, have you?
a laser beam blasts into the side of the World Trade Center.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just weird how all this kind of stuff,
Pops up now and again.
Yeah, well, it's 10 years before,
Yeah.
just kind of, it's weird. There was that great scene, the gag about the pizza delivery, the pizza that never gets there,
Yeah. He's still asking for the pizza by the end. I do think some of the visual graphics though, when he's using the phone and stuff and pointing at to order stuff. I mean, it's a little bit basic considering that what we saw in say Max Headroom, the pilot, had far more detail. It was far more detailed.
I think what they're trying to do though as well. Remember, this is the other thing. We're in an era now of touchscreen televisions and flat screen televisions and iPhones and tablets and everything has become so sophisticated. Like even do you remember that James Bond film Quantum of Solace? There's a sequence where they're in the M's room or whatever.
Oh yeah, they're playing
with that. Like it's like a giant
This giant tablet table, isn't it?
They're playing the graphic. Like at the time, I remember thinking this just seems like it's they're trying to be more sophisticated than the real world actually could be. Now that looks basic. That looks like
When I saw that though in Quantum of Solace, though, it didn't feel like it needed to be in a Bond film. It felt a bit too
it felt
space-agey.
Yeah. But now it's ordinary. If you look at it now, it just looks like something that would be released 6 years ago or whatever. It's like yesterday. And I think here they're trying to create a domestic reality to the Dinotopia world to some extent. So they're trying to deliberately put in some blandness. They're trying to make the graphics look like kind of how corporate graphics would look in 1993 in an alternative dinosaur world. So an audience in 1993 would look at it and go, "Oh, that's a domestic and impressive kind of thing."
I suppose so. Yeah.
Yeah. And here they are in costumes now too. We've got them in their
finally in the costumes. Well, it's like in Street Fighter the movie. They sort of become the characters kind of halfway in. They start wearing the costumes where the fans, especially me, I wanted to see them in the costume straight away. I think they could have had some visual reference to like the blue and the red, maybe in their kind of design for their company in the real world.
That's interesting. The other fun thing is too that they put Luigi's cap backwards, so he's a bit more down with the kids.
Oh yeah, he's cool now.
Yeah, I think that's kind of.
Don't wear it the other way. You're not cool. Go wear it backwards to be hip. But because they'd conceived this as a kind of the prequel to Super Mario Bros. The game, so this isn't like they they become the characters kind of near the end of the movie, which always happens in movies, and kids, all fans always get a little bit pissed off by that. I didn't, in retrospect, I did as well.
I don't really,
That's a difficulty of basing a film on a video game which had no real kind of story to it. So you have to create your own backstory and stuff. So it's such a challenge.
Yeah, no, but again, I like that. I like the fact that they just took stuff. They didn't take stuff literally. Could you imagine how boring it would be if it was, they were running through a green land and there were pipes and it was just a tick sheet of stuff.
It just ended up being a movie people would watch when they're in their late teens and just get high and watch it, and it just end up being enjoyed by potheads.
Well, it's funny, something like Batman Returns, which is a different comic books, different medium, but someone like Max Schreck, the character Max Schreck, was created for the film.
Yeah.
And and the rules of things. I don't, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like the whole circus, Red Triangle Circus Gang, I think that was created for the film and those kind of things.
Yeah.
And that is cited as like being like one of the best Batman films, but it actually takes liberties with a lot of the
Well,
heritage.
it's rated by the best. Some as the best Batman film by hardened Tim Burton fans. But
And it makes sense in that Burton-esque, Edward Scissorhands kind of universe of kind of tortured freaks and all that kind of, it works. It just, it evidently works. It has an audience and it made a lot of money.
Disagree with you there on Batman Returns. I don't think it works at all.
Well, I'm just saying I'm just saying how it's perceived by an audience. So I don't think you necessarily always have to be completely literal in your translation of things, The relationship here is fun, building up with Toad and Daisy and her kind of requesting things, and the fact that the other thing that's kind of it's not unspoken, but
when she goes to escape, he brings her he brings her veg.
But I like the fact that even though his intelligence has been devolved too, because he's got a tiny head, tiny brain, he still, and he probably, with that, you'd think would become a bit more primal and a bit more kind of aggressive. They actually become simpler and friendlier. They become really friendly. And that's why you got that great scene in the elevator where they're all being much. But he wants to impress her, and I like the fact that he goes away. He's got that plate of meat, and you can imagine somebody at that level. The fact she's like, I'd like some steamed vegetables, and he actually goes away and gets a really clean. This is a filthy world, and he comes with like a really, really clean, freshly prepared plate.
Way too late when she's escaping.
Yeah. But he's got it there, and he's held it, and the presentation's perfect and everything. That's just it's fun. There's a bit of violence here with Lena, and she hits Yoshi, but there's no blood.
There's no blood. No, luckily he doesn't get killed off.
Notice how too she's got those things on her
fingers as well.
Yeah.
But you think, does she really know that it has to be Daisy who can only open the portal? I mean, she just.
Well, she gets it, doesn't she, and runs off herself.
Oh, of course, yeah, but she obviously hasn't looked into it that much. She's only seen it as a way of getting more power, and that obviously becomes her downfall.
This kind of Daisy running along the corridors here, that feels quite directly, direct visualization of the video game.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I think.
This odd theme with the love theme from Dr. Zhivago playing as they're in the elevator is just a joy, isn't it?
They're dancing again.
Like if you were to say this, if you were to sell this to someone, to pitch here's a bunch of.
This is a great gag though, because when he sees them all dancing,
yeah, and he sort of says attention. Yeah,
they're all embarrassed, aren't they? Oh God, sorry.
But I like the fact there's no inquiry into anything either. It's movie rules,
Oh, cool.
Somebody does something stupid and it's just like, break out of it. Okay, they're out of it. Forget it. Here we are with the steamed vegetables. The other fun thing about Toad is, how they've got that little they've kept him as a singer by sticking the whatever it is, the
harmonica.
The harmonica on it. They've got like a little rig for it too because his hands can't reach up. So they've like made this little rig.
It's like he's got a giant brace on, doesn't it?
This like little bespoke rig. Yeah, it's so clever. Endless gags in this. It's kind of weird watching him burn as well. That and the stabbing of Yoshi.
Yeah, it's because the director said the tone of the movie is not consistent. It's very up and down.
Yeah. But it makes you think too when you see fire in that. You think about the world and the idea of ventilation. There isn't. It's a
it doesn't seem to be any ventilation at all. Yeah. Even though there's a giant piping system below, I think that's all about keeping everything warm, though.
Yeah. Have you seen DOA?
No, I've not seen Dead or Alive. No.
Morton and Yankel's
first
film
movie
that they made before this.
I watched the trailer, and it did look pretty impressive. Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan. Was that made just before Inner Space or after?
That was made after. Yeah.
Made after, yeah, because they're by that point a couple, weren't they? I think.
I have no idea. I think they. Yeah. I don't know. This talking to the fungus is great, isn't it?
It's giant descending nutsack.
I love her performance, Samantha Mathis. I think she's so good.
She's very she's probably fully aware of the ludicrous kind of script, and she's kind of playing it very honestly though. She's just doing her best with the material.
There's a good divide in the cast, I think, between the people who are playing it straight and the people who are going over the top. There's a good.
Well, Dennis Hopper hated it. He hated the script. You know, because the problem is the movie had so many rewrites, and he's been given material every day, and just also getting frustrated with the constant changes.
But it's fun how he looks nuts, and then you've got him next to Fiona Shaw, who's playing it completely straight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then you've got
Because I think the younger actors are really giving it their all.
Yeah.
Because this is for most of them this is a big deal.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
they've a lot of their careers riding on this.
But they're just incredibly professional too.
No, yeah.
This sequence where Luigi tricks Mario into thinking that he's flying, it doesn't make any sense, but it's so much fun. Hey Mario, I'm flying.
Would you feel this pressure on your clothes being hanged up? But
well, not the fact that he managed to jump in the air in a split second, hang himself from the from the top, but the fact that he's saying to Mario, "Oh, you joined me, you come on," and Mario takes his sweet time jumping off. It's not like it's not like he did it immediately. And then he goes, "Oh no 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 no!" It's ridiculous. It's so fun, but it's building up that trust of the fungus.
Hey, the animation on the actual fungus stuff springing him in the air is really good.
Mm. Again, not really been seen before. What do you think of digital effects in films? You had the morphin willows you mentioned before, and the pseudopod in the Abyss.
Yeah, we also did T2 with more of the kind of morphing liquid metal we've seen.
Yeah.
But we hadn't seen stuff like this. You hadn't seen digital kind of like fungus stuff. You hadn't seen people being broken up into particles.
Mm. I can't really think of any big particles.
And because the next video game kind of movie which employed a lot of CGI was Mortal Kombat, but that is aged very badly with CG. It's very the animation is actually pretty good, but I mean it's very kind of low res. I mean it's not particularly detailed. Where this actually looks far more detailed in its execution.
Well, it's also that was attempting a much more fantasy. Kind of
but this is I suppose if you time the amount of CG in say Mortal Kombat to this, Mortal Kombat has far more, so there's more effect shots to complete, and also a smaller budget. But
they're creating a completely different. Like this is a kind of an industrial kind of future modern world, whereas that's more of a kind of a fantasy organic world that's drawing influences from other kinds of art mythology and whatever. And I don't know. I think Mortal Kombat's brilliant in its own completely different way. But the point is that kind of I can't really think of any of that particle animation being in any film up until this point.
I can't
using it as a big gimmick. You're probably missing an obvious one, I'm sure.
But the big pushers of digital animation was ILM at that point, wasn't it? The ones that came to most people's attention.
I guess because when you think of the Oscars, you think of
you do, yeah.
Those. I was thinking if you meant to make, you hear about if they made this film now. If they make a new version of Mario, I wonder if they'd be more inclined to go the more fantasy route that's kind of implied in the game.
It would probably they'd probably do animation. Something like like Toy Story, Kung Fu Panda kind of way.
You think?
Yeah, I don't think they'd do it live action again.
Like the new Ninja Turtles, CG characters. That kind of. Not just in terms of that though, but I mean in terms.
I think the prospect of doing it live action again is completely out of the question. I think.
But do you think? I mean, this is what I liked about this. It's an obvious. They went for this futuristic, dystopian world, apocalyptic world of Dino Hat, and I think that was a really clever idea that was unexpected. And I wonder now, would they do some? Maybe somebody out there would like to try something that would be more like a Game of Thrones type world, a fantasy, a Lord of the Rings kind of version of the Cooper Kingdom.
It's hard to say. I mean, obviously, this didn't work out. I mean, I think Nintendo would probably see it as too much of a risk. But there has been discussions though of another Mario thing. But there's always discussions of possibility of a film coming out, but it's always just hearsay, and it's never nothing's ever put on paper, and no one's ever done a script, and nothing's been commissioned. It's always just like, hey, we may do a film, but
Cute moment here with the introduction of Daisy's dad to the Mario Brothers. I think it's so much fun. They don't. Do you know what the other thing they could have done in the film that they don't do is they don't split the Mario Brothers apart.
They're always together.
There's no I wonder.
No, but they do get separated when Mario has to face Koopa and Luigi has to help Daisy with the rock
later on.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess but there's no I wonder now if they did it maybe, or if somebody else had done it, it might have been more about brotherhood, kind of like the Ninja Turtles films have been.
Where they're kind of at conflict with each other.
Yeah. They learn what it is to be brothers, or that kind of thing.
I mean, these two have always just literally remain loyal to each other all the way.
Yeah.
I think, which is good. I think it stays in key with the Mario brothers.
They're true and true to their upbringing.
Yeah.
Which everyone else isn't in the film.
Yeah, and he's because Mario's his brother and his father essentially. So, he's always with him.
I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Because that's a joke, Mario, Luigi, Mario, ha. But they do it with sincerity.
Yeah. Hello, mammals.
I loved the way Dennis Hopper delivers that line about "I meet you in the playground after school."
Yeah,
so fun.
It shows that Dennis Hopper he's a great actor, even though he completely despised this movie. He's so good at it as well.
Asian closing.
A bit weird.
On the sign. Asian closing.
What's an Asian? I don't know.
Cooper phone. You could, we could pause this. Litter here. Do not use trash. All this stuff on the side. There's loads and loads of world building stuff in there. But that Asian, I never noticed that Asian thing until now.
No, not at all.
So maybe maybe when they were filming it, the thing broke down and it said, maybe it was one of those loopy things that goes around. But you don't care because it makes sense. It's fun. So it's coming towards the end now, aren't we?
Really, it's coming into the third act because they're going to try and escape and they fly out into the city. Then they face off against Cooper. Then, but at that point, she's Cooper's mistress is kind of cut through to the other dimension, caused a rift.
Yeah. I was going to say the other thing before. I was laughing about there are platforms for no reason and haha. Actually, again, we're saying about the video game. That's incredibly faithful to the video game because that was a platform video game. Where So they've put that into the design of the film. The whole film is on tiers of in Dino Hatton is on tiers of multi-level.
Oh yeah, because you couldn't have a movie just consisting of platforms and Mario jumping up and down. It would be so boring in the space of 2 minutes.
But he's doing it now.
Yeah, but it's only conceived in one sequence.
Yeah,
it's only used as a kind of a plot device.
No. Throughout the film, the whole thing is on multi-levels, multi-tiers. You see shots through grates, of when Bertha comes to the club and stuff, and it moves, through.
It needs more pipes, though. It needs to go down a pipe, like burp, burp, and sort of go to the next level.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about pipes throughout the rest of the movie. Yeah, there aren't. There
isn't that many, no. It's only really just part of the plumbing. Which we saw earlier. Well, they go down a massive pipe now, don't they? I suppose.
Yeah.
On the mattress.
It's funny too, as well. Like the just things like these are all abducted young women.
Yeah.
It's not a very child-friendly thing to
No, and also the women are all kind of dressed like they would fit in the world of Cooper. So that's what's probably confused. When Cooper's cousins kind of went and kidnapped them, And
they're all mostly Italian American as well?
They as well, yeah. They've all got the accent. Get the fuck out of here.
See, look at the buttons.
Oh, yeah. They're all dancing again. Brilliant.
See, look at these pipes going
Have they got pipes there? Yeah. It's becoming more pipey now.
Platforms and pipes. Oh, is this the pipe sequence with the Joe Satriani track playing over the top of it?
That's right, yeah.
I love this miniature shot. Oh, it's so cool, isn't it?
That's a good shot.
So
That's
detailed.
really good.
It's so much fun.
This sequence is kind of shown on TV quite a lot as well. There's always kind of moments of this movie. I just think, oh my God, that was shown so much back in the day when they promoted it.
It's so upbeat. It's such a fun film, isn't it? It's such a bouncy, colourful film. Look at us just sitting here watching this like we're about 10. We're 10-year-olds just like, ah.
They're getting away very slowly.
We could have been there in that empty cinema in 1993 watching this. Yeah. We waited till now.
Sitting in like an MGM flea pit cinema going, oh.
The music really adds something, I think. There aren't too many sort of needle drop moments throughout the film, are there, where they throw in a song over the top as
No, it's just kind of really employed just for a
Non-diegetic
quick sequence, isn't it? It's for an action scene.
Yeah.
I mean, Alan Silvestri's score, I think, was released. I think it was part of it was released as part of another soundtrack. It's a limited numbers where it's only like maybe 40 minutes of music, but it came with like another score of his, so it came like a double pack set. Because so it happens sometimes where I got like the soundtrack to Rumble in the Bronx, but then it comes in. They include Jackie Chan's First Strike as well on one CD because there wasn't enough material recorded to be a 60-minute release.
I love how it's like a magic carpet.
Isn't it ridiculous?
Moving so slowly. So many fun dynamic camera moves. Isn't this the bit where he says he's trying? Dennis Hopper's trying to dress them, and he gets a call saying, "Sir, your pizza's here."
That's right. Yeah.
They set things.
Oh, there's more of those like the jumping boots as well on the left.
Right.
That's quite cool.
We're talking about the downfall because this is now the face-off, isn't it, between Mario and Cooper? I noticed in the background there's a sign, like a presidential sign for Cooper. There's two of them, but one of them, he's depicted as a reptile. And I'm pretty sure at the beginning of the film that's not there.
As a reptile, are you sure?
Yeah. If you look in the background.
We read the one, there's one with kissing the baby, but there's one where it's a little bit more crude. It's like a hand-drawn image. It's not like a photo of him.
No. There's like a big sort of...
I don't know. I have to see that. Try and point it out when you see it.
You're saying it might be a protester's sign that's been stuck up?
No.
On that side, look on the reverse. Look so they're going to cut to reverse at one point, and I think he's holding a chainsaw.
He's holding a chainsaw, yeah, but he's not reptilian though.
It's got like a reptilian face, and then it gets white. It gets white painted at the end. You're right. There's a branded boots.
Now this moment here reminds me of when you fight Cooper in Super Mario Brothers World. At the end, he's in the little flying thing, and you've got he throws down Cooper's down. You've got to throw the shells up, and it bounces him on his head. This kind of moment.
I like the fact that he's hanging in like one of those big cement things as well. So you've got the mud from before and cement. Fossilization. The clever elements that have been used. Do you see as Lena is falling in the background? See that?
Yeah, it doesn't look reptilian though. It's just a hand-drawn image of him. It's to be in a photo.
Really?
Yeah.
From a distance, it kind of
doesn't look reptilian.
Looks reptilian. That big wig that.
I think it's like something like Adam's Family or something.
It's quite big. Oh, you're right. Yeah.
It's like a comic book design.
Yeah.
Give it to me.
But I think my point of mentioning that is I think this is the unravelling of Cooper now. This is where Cooper is becoming more and more reptilian, obviously, because he's now
being thrown into the public eye because he's very much been behind the scenes all the time.
But he I think it's undesirable for him to become a reptile at this point. I think he's been hiding it. He's ashamed of it. I think it's
it's got a dead corpse on the front of the vehicle. Brilliant.
You were saying about like the infrastructure of the city and where things go, and not really knowing that. I don't know. I like the fact that you're
it's
left
all over
thinking,
the place.
Where
I always like a little bit of geography to it, where you kind of get a sense of where they've gone.
Because all you can do is big loops around the city. Isn't
it?
There's no public transport either.
No buses, no trains.
Or I was thinking more like a subway.
Because you think it'd be a train because it had like, it did say same like station, but it said Asian, didn't it, instead?
I feel like Lena's stuff here is kind of against the tone of the movie slightly. This gets a bit too big, I think, with the huge hair and her being incinerated and turned into a fossil on the side of the wall. You
think where it kind of falls into the movie is kind of uneven with its tone, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you could argue.
Do you think it becomes a bit more too comical?
It becomes a bit too broad. I don't think... I mean, it's hard. Tone is really hard. It's really
very hard thing to do.
Especially when you're creating a universe, where you're creating their own rules. There aren't built-in rules already. I don't think it hurts it in any way. It's just, I remember watching the film thinking, that seems a bit kind of... it takes you a while to process or sort of adapt to the tone that they're shifting to.
This bomb has the longest fuse ever.
I like the fact that the pavement cracks as well, so it can conveniently go down.
Yeah.
It's a fun, sort of very prolonged showdown, like in a western, isn't it?
And this is when the dimensions begin to merge, and you see that great sequence where he begins to break up into the particles. But it's also a bit like there's quite a lot of effort's been gone into that sequence where the first time you see him break up, but when they kind of land, in New York, well, kind of New Jersey kind of part. I don't think it's not as effective. I think the way
it's Brooklyn, isn't it? They like
Brooklyn, sorry. When they kind of go back to the Cooper world, I mean, how it's been shot, I mean, it's not that inspired in terms of its camera setup. I think it looks really nice when you first see it happen.
So it's
quite dramatic.
I quite like the fact that it's so ordinary looking when they go back. That it isn't, it's not an end of the world type thing. Like maybe because in recent years in sort of big Hollywood movies, you're seeing destructions of cities and this kind of thing and doom and gloom and that. That fight at the end of Man of Steel where half the city gets
demolished.
Yeah. Whereas in this, you just get a few seconds of it. It's more like a threat appears. It comes. And then it goes, and we know how bad the threat is. It kind of makes it more suspenseful because we know what it could be potentially.
Oh, definitely.
We know how bad it could be, but the actual people in the human world are never going to know.
They're getting a quick clue of the two towers, aren't they?
And as an audience, it makes us feel privy to stuff that the real world doesn't know about. It's fun. This is a great visual too, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I love the shot of Bob Hoskins because he's like the terror on his face.
And his way he looks around and is touching himself to see what's going on. But it plays in, we were saying before, the nail board at the beginning on his face. Yeah. You start off there and then you end up here. The nail board that Luigi puts
I think I've noticed actually because, Bob Hoskins' character, he had written him, he sort of becomes very heroic very quickly. He's become, he's just a plumber. Now he's become this kind of hero of this other dimension, and he kind of falls into it very quickly, and you kind of buy into it. You're not having to question why he's doing these things and how he's managing to do them. He just does them. Now
we're in Brooklyn, as we said before, and it's the melding of the two worlds. I like the surrealness, the fact that everyone's kind of just looking perplexed. This guy a human being gets turned into a monkey. He's never going to have his life again. And everyone just kind of looks on and thinks it's some kind of publicity
that's going to end up helping the Marry Brothers because now Scapelli's out of the equation. Yeah. They can have their business will not be affected. And the students won't get hassled by their thugs.
But it's kind of funny the way everyone's just laughing about it. There's no threat in this world. In the other world, it's life and death. It's a big thing. It's there.
He's still calling him boss. It's this chimp.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine being Dennis Hopper in the middle of this? Just having to sort of create a believability in his mind of what's going on.
What is going on? Where's my agent?
What are the rules?
I'm going to kill him.
What are the rules of this? I don't have any rules.
I don't have any rules.
And we're intercutting, as you say, we're intercutting back.
The detail shots here, I also find a little bit bland. When they go, and also when they reappear again, it's not as.
I like the spinning head.
Yeah, that's great. Spinning head's great, but it's. I don't know. Not as effective as before.
I'm just going to say when we cut back to Luigi's kind of he's graduating from his apprenticeship, really, isn't he? This is really him getting to be an independent plumber in his own right, not just taking things from his brother, but he's actually being quite active. That guy driving the car looked like somebody out of a Mad Max film, didn't he? Felt very Mad Max. He's mixing kind of a Batman world with a Mad Max. Post-apocalyptic world with a Blade Runner world with anything else that just looks cool and is cool.
It's a pick and mix of fantasy movies, isn't it?
And the gravity-defying bomb at this point too, walking at walls. I mean, the rule. That's kind of the fun too. Like we were saying before, it sets up the rules of its world, but it also creates new rules as it goes, sort of thing. Kind of like a video game does. There is a surrealism to things like levels in games.
Well, in video games, sometimes the rules will just suddenly change.
Yeah.
And that's just the inherent thing they throw in for the difficulty curve. of a game. He's never going to make it easy.
At this point too,
I love this moment here. It's really cool when they fire the guns and their hats fly off. You know, there's always wind added. It's a great little moment.
And the fact that the bazooka that he fires ends up going and setting his own face on fire, and just his face and not the baby's face on the poster. And these are so these are super scopes.
Yeah, from the Super Nintendo thing. Did you ever try the Super Scope as a kid?
Yeah.
It's crap. Rubbish. Never worked properly. And yeah, I think they like 2 or 3 games for it.
I love the way Cooper flies up in the air vertically, comes down, and then last minute diagonally shifts.
That's fantastic.
Into this cement thing. But this is completing his, his descent into his shamed dinosaur form that he's afraid of.
He doesn't really look like a T-Rex. They've tried to model him on Cooper.
He's a self-hating dinosaur. He's a big self-hating dinosaur, and this is the end of it. He is a dinosaur. He's tried to escape from being a dinosaur, and now he's a dinosaur. And even at this point, if he won, I wonder actually, even if he won at this point, I can't see him being a leader again of this place. Like he's.
Oh no! He's been shamed, hasn't he? He's been found out for the scumbag he is.
Yeah.
It's quite a little bit there. See the animation; it kind of turned into the Cooper character from the game. It's a quick,
It's a great bit of pseudopod
quick morph there.
Abyss animation, isn't it? And he's
reminds me of the Liquid in Time Cop when they meld together and break time.
Well, kind of like the ice in Terminator 2.
Yeah.
The cheering of the Mario Brothers. Most of these people.
Who's going to lead them now, though, Tim? It's going to be Daisy, isn't it?
It's a great ending. It's fun. And the music, the great theme. Like you said before, they only use the actual video game theme once, don't they?
They do, yeah. It really annoyed me.
Kind of fun.
Should have been a big orchestral rendition of Super Mario.
Well, the other thing too is I think a lot of people like myself. I look at the people dancing in the street.
It's like something out of Hook.
So much fun. But in reality, I bet there was sweltering.
Oh God! Everyone's like, "Please just stop filming."
It's the summertime in a cement factory.
Oh God!
Yeah.
And in America, in that weather, God, it's like blistering.
It's a nice
heat.
bit of genre casting having Lance Henriksen as the Mushroom King as well.
Yeah, got Bishop in it.
I really
Same
like
universe. That. Same universe.
It just seems appropriate, doesn't it?
Didn't you say Laszlo Kovacs shot that sequence?
I had read on I think on the website, the SMB movie website, that somewhere that he had just shot just that shot. I don't know. I read that on there.
Oh right, okay.
It's absolutely beautiful set. This what is it called again? This room.
I'm not sure actually. It seems some sort of chamber, isn't it?
With Lena splattered against the wall.
Yeah, it's the gateway to get through to the other world, but you obviously need that piece of the rock to do it.
But I was saying before, it's lovely how we've had Daisy was an orphan, like the Marios. They had that in common. She didn't know where she came from. She was looking for where the dinosaurs came from. She's learned that, and she's also learned who her real family are. And now they have
ties
to
into the idea you brought up at the beginning.
And Scapelli has and Cooper, they both were walking on the little people because they.
It's strange in a way because the movie tries to, in a minute, it plays up the idea of there being a sequel.
Yeah.
Now Cooper's been destroyed. Cooper's always been the bad guy in Super Mario.
Hold on, what? So who's Bowser?
Wasn't he that?
Is Bowser Cooper?
Yeah.
Is he?
King Cooper. Yeah.
I have no idea. I'm sure. Come on, how many games have there been of Mario?
Oh, there's loads of them, but he never actually kills him, I don't think.
So he's in every single video game. You're telling me that?
Pretty much, yeah. He's always, the main villain. I'm sure maybe one Mario game where he's not, but I played up to Mario Sunshine. That's about it.
This is really heartfelt, this sequence. I really like it.
Oh, the score really works, doesn't it, here?
But their performances are really good too. It's all true.
Because he knows he's never going to see her again. But she's just standing there with Yoshi. But the score for her is really good. Her kind of musical cue.
There's no winking, mugging, and nobody is really...
It's that Wizard of Oz moment where Dorothy's got to say goodbye.
Yeah.
This is brilliant though because it's set 3 weeks later, right? And then the news report footage says recorded earlier. It's like, well, I presume that's supposed to imply earlier that day, but they're showing you the events from 3 weeks ago.
Luigi wears that T-shirt the whole way through, doesn't he? And it's got the kind of yin and yang sign, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Too. A duality of brothers.
There you go.
Of worlds. Well, the Cooperverse in this world. Of him and Daisy.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, he has that the whole time. He doesn't have any other clothes. Apart from when they do that shift.
She's on the world of the Spice Girls. Come to help you.
It's kind of cool, though, and she's an active female heroine at a time when there weren't any really.
Not really, no.
Action heroine with, And now here's that big anthem of the film. So you were talking before about the NES.
It's rock set, isn't it?
Well, you've got the NES music that you say is what you associate the game with.
That's right.
A lot of people, I think, I certainly associate with the film this song more than I do the Alan Silvestri music, which is interesting.
Really? That's interesting.
Well, this was used to promote it, wasn't it? And of course, this was...
Well, it wasn't used in the trailers, though. Was there a music video, wasn't there, for this? There was a music video. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
I've
it was
used it in my
I'm pretty
respective
sure
years
it was
ago.
in some of the trailers. But anyway, I think that was written for another Disney film, Hocus Pocus.
You're right. That's right. Yeah.
Which came out sometime after this.
Yeah. Came out in 94-5, wasn't it? Hocus Pocus?
And no, it's 93.
93 as well.
And for, as I say, for Disney. But
it's a good song, though, by Roxette.
I don't know. The idea that it was written for something else kind of blows my mind because I don't know why. It just seems appropriate. Again.
That's happened quite a few times with some songs that are just kind of written for something else and then plopped in a different film.
I think there are two different... I might have this completely wrong, but I'm sure in one of the music videos for this, it doesn't have any reference to the film, but it has a version of the devolution chamber, I think, where it's like a prop that kind of looks like the devolution chamber.
Sure.
And they do some kind of reference to the devolution chamber, but they don't use footage from the film.
Right.
So I don't know.
Well, this film also has a post-credit sequence.
Yeah,
way before Marvel.
Long time before Marvel, but after Masters of the Universe.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many people who worked on this film who are incredibly, well-known craftsmen and technicians.
Very big production. I mean, Tim, what are your final thoughts on Super Mario Brothers, the movie?
Well,
how do you sum it up after all these years?
I still think it is a great, fun, Wizard of Oz style romp. I think it's surreal, it's absurd, and it's really creative in the way that it takes a universe of a video game that just isn't at all cinematic at all. I mean, it has potential, but there's nothing obvious and linear there. And then and you even said there's a repetition in those games, and that it's. Well, each level of that game is in the first game. You go across the landscape and you go to a castle. You drop a flag.
Yeah, pretty much all of it.
Yeah. I mean, where can you go with that? And the absolutely obvious thing to do with that would be to do a fantasy style thing. And at that point in the early 90s, fantasy films were kind of out of vogue. Can't think of any. I think the most recent one before then had been Willow, maybe.
Yeah, that didn't do that well. The fantasy genre had kind of died out. But that would sword and sorcery thing.
That would be the literal way to go with this kind of film, and to have it in castles, and to have all that kind of thing, and to have Toad as a mushroom person. And they didn't. They did something else, and they made it. The movie thrives on creativity, and it's so much fun. Obviously, there are issues with it. Obviously, there are things that show on the screen. What do
you think is the biggest fault with it for you?
Well, I don't know, because I'm immensely biased. So
there you go. He's admitted he's immensely biased.
But no, there are things with. I mean, it's very it's the tone, I guess, the inconsistency of it. But it's kind of fun, you know. Even the things, the fact that, you know, you've got things in it like we've mentioned the word fetish about a zillion times.
Yeah.
You know, all that fetish clothing. It's still inventive. It's still fun. It's still clever, and it's probably no more worse than all the stuff that's in, say, Robert Altman's Popeye, or, you know, the kind of more adult leadings that maybe seem inappropriate or tonally inconsistent in something like that.
Sure.
But I think it's just, there is so much invention, so much visual invention. There is so much stuff that wasn't seen at the time as well. Stuff that wasn't ordinary, you know.
No. I think the movie has been given a bit of a bad shake over time. You know, I sympathise with some people that kind of dislike the movie a lot. It's not a perfect movie. There's a lot of problems with its kind of story. I think I would have loved to have seen the original conception of the film, the original vision for it, before it was kind of diluted and changed by the producers and
it tested the waters for the genre, for the comic, but for the video game. This was the first ever video game.
Oh, exactly.
Now we've got the post-credit scene where the creators of Mario are kind of doing a deal, aren't they?
Yeah.
For what the video game will be called, the rights, and obviously the punchline is that it's Iggy and
Spike.
Super Cooper Cousins.
But, you know, in comparison to other video game movies, I mean, it still actually surpasses many of the ones that are considered kind of more successful. You know, so obviously straight afterwards we have Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, but, you know, now we've had so many by, you know, Uwe Boll, who did us House of the Dead, Alone in the Dark, so many of those awful translations. They are so cheap in comparison to Mario Brothers, and so if someone, you know, regards this or does a top 10 list and Mario Brothers is number one as the worst, they clearly haven't done their research properly, because there's so many more worse movies out there with video game translations than Mario Brothers.
It was a proud big budget production.
Yeah, the money's there on screen,
big actors,
great visuals. But it's just kind of let down by its kind of tone and very kind of uneven story, where things haven't been explained properly.
I think the script is always, you know, a problem with these things.
Yeah, and that's what makes a good movie. Really, at the end of the day, is if the script's not good enough, you can't throw so much money at it to make it better.
And it was an enviable task as well, because you know, this has a genre that didn't exist at all.
No.
And I think the writers did a great job, actually, with what they. As I said, I think it's so. I don't think that, you know, there's so much that obviously the production designers and the directors and you know, everyone else added to the film, but I think that there was a boldness to go in a different direction, and
I think it could have been worse. I think it could have been worse. I think some of the people that came in after the directors were kind of booted off, they've done their best to salvage the movie the best they can, and this is what we've got. It's not perfect by any means, but it's not awful. Okay, well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed the commentary, and thanks, Tim, for joining me as well, and I'll see you guys all next week for some more audio commentaries.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.